it's easier to forgive people when they're accountable. Even though it took my mother a lot of stops and starts with her addiction. And, because her last relapse was like in 2009 or 10.
That's a while ago.
Yeah, it's a while ago.
Yeah.
Actually, it was. I think it was a little after my grandmother. My grandmother had a stroke, and it was very severe, and she died within a few months. And when she had the stroke, it was so traumatic for my mother because she discovered her. And my grandmother had been in her house for a few days and had a stroke. I think it was like 2 days she might have been in her house, and she didn't pick up the phone. So when my mother went over there, she saw her, let's just say, I don't want to get too descriptive, in a very horrific condition. Yeah. Right. And so that sent my mother back into a dark, place. And so, but she's always been honest and forthright about anything, and so because of that transparency, her accountability, it made it that much easier for me to forgive her, which I did many years ago. Right. The question that I always have for her is, has she forgiven herself? And I don't think she has. I think that's going to be the hardest part for her to overcome in all of this. Yeah.
Because I saw the clip of her doing when you all did the Red Table Talk, and I felt like she was still, it's something like it's a day-to-day sort of thing if she's able to kind of forgive herself and give herself grace and
it
stuff
very
like
much
that.
is. And, her and Gammy, Jada's mom, had a moment over that because they both, and this is why I think that conversation was really powerful and really healing for my mother, is, all she's thinking about is the things she missed, and not really like plays or things like that. My mother was there all the time because I was with her, but she doesn't feel like she was present enough. And not only that, I think she looks at what her addiction cost in terms of our relationship. My mother still thinks that we have some unhealed trauma in our relationship. And because of that, she feels like at times I distance myself from her. We're not as close as we could be, even though on my end of it, I don't really see it that way. Yeah. But I think she's just very sensitive to it. And until she can kind of get to a true place of forgiveness, I think it's going to be a bit of touch and go in terms of whether or not she forgives herself.
How does your family feel about, because you talk about your family.
I do.
How do they feel about
Well, largely I don't know, because the only person in my family that I sent an advanced reader copy of the book was my mother. And this is no disrespect to my father, who has unfortunately made some of his feelings known on his social media about it. Okay. And because of that, I really didn't care about their approval. I don't want that to sound disrespectful. Yeah. But being a writer as long as I have been, I understand very much that you can't write for the audience. You have to write your truth. Whether people respect it or not, or whether they accept it, absorb it, whether they come after you for it, you can't think about that, because then you start writing based off how you think people might feel and not writing what's really in your heart. Yeah. And so that's why I was very careful about who I let read it beforehand, because I wasn't looking to be validated. Okay. I thought the people that I let read it beforehand, like, they deserve to read it, because these are relationships that are meaningful to me, that I want to maintain and preserve and never disrespect. It's why my husband read it beforehand, because I didn't want him to be surprised by any information. He knew most of it. He may not have known a lot of the specific details, right? But I wanted to make sure that certain people in my life, that they, had an idea of what was to come.